how many people use open source here? Definitely all of them, because Ruby is open source. The funny part that open source was not about free software, to download it for free. The initial idea of open source was very political. It's the idea that you should control your laptop, that you should know what software is running and how it's operated. So open source is political. If you use open source, you're already in the politics. Hacking culture is not only about stealing money, it's also to mistrust the authorities. It's also very political. But my favorite example is from cryptography. Right now, when we go to any website, you will have HTTPS, as means security, encrypted, and the people who created it, they have a very good code. The decision we make about communication security today will determine the kind of society we live in tomorrow. So the whole cryptography is not about, mathematical problem, it's about political problem. They created to make us free. So software was always about politics. It's only the current young generation works for money. This is my favorite example. Like there is two movies. One is from 90s. It's called Hackers. If you didn't watch it, highly recommend. Very nice movie. Other one is Silicon Valley. It's a very good example of how our software development scene was changed, like how people see us before and how they see us right now. Anyway, so why you should care about politics? First, because the software you're creating right now will use against you in the future. If you're creating some time tracker, which make a screenshot of worker's laptop, then your company will use it against you, and you will be forced to work 60 hours per week. But also, having some politics ideas, some principles, make a means of your life. Because without principles, just working for money, make a huge hole inside you. And having principles, it's a nice way to make friends, to have some meanings of your work. But there is a lot of principles, a lot of politics. Privacy is not the only one. Every people should have their own principles. There is no way to determine what principle is better. But I will try. So why I think you should care about privacy? There is a lot of misconceptions about privacy. A lot of people think that privacy is not important because, all the privacy problem, like they need to watch on us only to improve advertisement. So Google will show a better ads for you. Unfortunately, it's not true, because the main problem of privacy is not Google. The main problem is data brokers. It's a company which buys data from many small applications, then collect this data from many different sources and sell it to very shady clients. It's not about advertisements, it's about a very dark business. There is a good example of it. There is a data broker called Xmode, and in 2020, journalists found out that they bought data from about 100 applications. For instance, Quran app, Muslim dating application, Craigslist, and many others. And they'll sell this data to US military contractor. What could be more shady of selling Muslims' data to US militaries? And this is exactly what's happening right now. Okay, but my company doesn't sell data. We don't work with data brokers, so we are okay. Again, it's not the problem how it works in reality. Right now, there is a problem not only with selling the data, but also leaking it. If you put any data to your database, in some moment of the future, this database will be on the torrents, in the darknet. So if you save any data, this data could be leaked. And right now, we have more leaks every year. So if you save anything to your database, very high probability that it will be in darknet in 5 years. There is a good example. In Russia, there is a very popular food delivery service, very similar to Uber Eats or other applications. It's called Yandex Food Delivery. In 2022, they leaked all data about all food deliveries for years. And each record contained first and last name of client, phone number, and food delivery address. So it was possible to understand where you was in any moment of that year if you order a food to your home. More crazy part, that they even created a very nice looking application with web interface to use this data. So imagine your grandmother asks you, do you want her amazing food? And you say, no, I don't. I'm not hungry. But then your grandmother can go to this website and understand that you lied to her because this evening you ordered Chinese food. So like this is a real problem, data leakage. Okay, but we are not collecting private data because we work only with emails. It's already fake understanding of the privacy because we have right now a big data systems like way to analyze the data, and as a result, the more dangerous things is combining different data. For instance, you have an application. We have an application, Quran application, which shows direction to the Mecca. It doesn't ask your name, email, anything. It just knows that you are Muslim because you're using it, and it knows your location to show direction to the Mecca. But then, the same user can use social media application, which to make Instagram, for instance. And Instagram knows your location because you make photos. And using big data, we can connect these two locations and understand this email in your social app related to the Quran user. And then we can use some old data leak, to find the real full name of the person with this email. So just saving location of the users could combining data with a different application opens that this real user is a Muslim, which could be like dangerous for the people. The most dangerous, how many people here use Google Analytics? Like, don't look to the slides. About 50% of the people use Google Analytics. And the most dangerous part, that Google Analytics, it doesn't track the users only on your website. It uses global user ID. So Google Analytics know where you will go after your website. And Google creates the whole path you through the internet. Even like only 50% of users use Google Analytics, we can use referrer and click to understand where you go if the next site doesn't have a Google Analytics or the previous site doesn't have a Google Analytics. And as a result, I think Google can track 70% of website are you visiting each day. So it's pretty dangerous. Okay, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear, yeah? Like privacy is not important. Again, like if you don't have nothing to hide, maybe somebody else has nothing to hide. For instance, one Twitter employee sold the data of Twitter users to the Saudi Arabia government, and as a result of this data, a girl was sent to the prison, and old teacher was killed because this Twitter employee sold the data. And the main problem is that if Twitter would not save this data to database, it was nothing to sell. And it's not only about Saudi Arabia. Like in Europe, there is a company who created the facial recognition system, which used, for instance, in Moscow. If you're going to the street protests, they will not grab you on the streets. They will record your face, put you to the database, and next week you will be visited by the police. This is how they work against the protest. And it was done by a European company here. Like they very happy living in Amsterdam. And it's not only about the people in Saudi Arabia and Russia. It's also in Europe. Victims are in Europe. For instance, Proton Mail, like Spanish government, forced Proton Mail and Apple open the user data, and then they put this person to the jail. And the only things which he did, he helped local protests, Catalonian protests of independence. It was a peaceful protest, but they put him to the jail because the Proton and Apple opened his data. So the problem is here in Europe already. And it's not only, about politics, etc., because if artificial intelligence will know your private data, it's much easier to change your political views. So leaking private data could be dangerous for everyone. Okay, but what we can do about it? Let's go to another topic. Like 10 years ago, internet was much better place. Right now, it's city full of the pop-up. Like people make internet worse place. Like somebody destroys the internet. And am I on the developer conference? We made internet a shitty place. We created all these pop-ups. So the first thing you need to do to improve privacy is to finally remove GDPR pop-up. Okay, but you can say, It's European bureaucrats. They are forcing me to put this pop-up. I don't want, but the GDPR law, the city law forced me to do it. You know the funny part? In GDPR law, there is no pop-up word in any part of the document. The GDPR law say very simple thing. Don't track users. But we are so upset with data tracking, so we prefer to punish users with pop-ups until they will agree with surveillance. This is the only idea behind pop-ups. Like, in reality, pop-up is a dark design pattern which force user to agree because you block the important information, and like this is how like we created it. And like, it's a good thing. Like, there is a much better way. You don't need GDPR pop-up for landings. Just remove Google Analytics and use GDPR-compatible analytics. You don't need pop-ups, and you will ask private data request only when user will sign up. In that moment, like, it's pretty understandable why you need the access, and it's very easy to integrate it into the form very nicely, so it will not be pop-up, it will be just a checkbox. So, you know, good way to do it. And there is like GDPR-compatible analytics. It's very powerful right now. You can track campaigns, you can track sources, you can track a lot of stuff. You cannot track only two things. First, you cannot create a user ID and, you know, make a surveillance of like pass of user through the websites. And second thing, how many people know what remarketing is? It's a pretty shady thing. Like, do you remember when you visit a shop, try to buy shoes, and then you go to Facebook and see the shoes advertisement there? This is called remarketing. And you know, it's definitely very shady practice, and this is why it's not allowed by GDPR law. Okay, there is a lot of good GDPR-compatible analytics. I personally use Plausible, but all of them is pretty nice, so I can recommend all of them. It's not like the only list. There is much more options. It's just the analytics which I know. But you know, my manager asked me to add Google Analytics. Yeah, it's very popular. Like, the marketing team asked me, and there is a very simple like strategy to speak with them. The main problem that a lot of marketing managers ask you to add Google Analytics or any other tools, not because they need this information, but because they have obsession. They want to collect any data they want and put it. And there is a very interesting, simple test. Ask them, what decision have they made with the private data last year? If they did not make any decision, it means that they don't need this data, it's just obsession. And also, like, if you have GDPR pop-up, if you have Google Analytics, for instance, and GDPR pop-up, some of users will press no. It's about 30 to 60%. As a result, you will have full data, private data, only for the small fraction of users. And this fraction is not randomly distributed across all users. As a result, the private data which you collected with Google Analytics could force you to make false decisions because it shows only part of the users. And different users could make a completely different path, could make completely different interaction with your website. All private data right now is untrustable because it doesn't cover all your user base. And as a result, it's not statistically well distributed. So, and like GDPR pop-up is not only about Europe. We have the same stuff in the California, etc. Right now, it's a global thing. Like, soon we will need to do something in every country. And I really believe that we as a community could change the industry. How many people develop websites for Internet Explorer? Old school here. So, like, it was very old browser, and it was so hard to make website for him. But businesses asked us to do it, and what we did when we was a different society, we make a conspiracy to force business to stop supporting Internet Explorer. Like, it was a real conspiracy, for instance, in YouTube. Like, they really like start to fake the data to force business to stop supporting Internet Explorer, and it forced other teams then. But like, if we killed Internet Explorer, why we should not kill GDPR pop-ups in the same matter? It will like make internet much better place. Okay, what else can you do to improve privacy? Second step, reduce number of data processors. You know, right now, like when you go to website and you see this Jupyter pop-up, you see like, we care about your privacy. And then like a huge number of companies which have access to your data, like it's not a privacy, yes? They don't care about privacy. Right now, there is a problem when to make our website, we use many different services. We have Google Fonts, we have some CDNs, we have a database in some other clouds like Supabase. Then we use different CDN like Cloudflare, and we host our website, I don't know, on AWS. As a result, each of these clients have access to the private data. And as a result, we have more probability of data leaks or like selling the data. So, reduce the number of companies having access to the data. How? First, stop using CDN for JavaScript. It's not only bad for privacy, it's also bad for the performance. Stop using Google Fonts. It's much better, it's much faster to serve fonts from your laptop, from your server. And like, if you have a cloud, try to put everything to that cloud. Don't use Cloudflare and AWS. AWS has their own CDN. Don't use a database in separated server. Put it to your cloud. And try to use self-hosted tools, even if you're starting with the cloud version. Because if you're already in the self-hosted solution, you can go to the self-hosted version later. Okay, it was a simple steps. Now, much more complex. Local first. It's a complex step, and you can apply it only for the new project. It's very hard to apply it to existing project. But still, it's an important idea. Like, years ago, when dinosaurs was alive, and like we use Winamp to play music, we store all data locally. Your music was on your laptop. But then, iPhone was invented, so every user start to have two machines. It start to have a laptop and a phone. And to solve this problem, we start to put all data to the cloud for synchronization between one device and another way. But I want to suggest you a third way. Instead of putting data to the cloud, let's keep the data on the local machine, but use cloud to synchronize it. So let's, for instance, keep music here, and not keep it on the cloud, but use cloud to upload it and download it to my next device. It's called local first. It was created by a company like the idea. Like, there was a lot of local first application before the term, but Ink and Switch created a term and created a manifest. Like, they make a gem from the many different ideas of the local first. This is a very good book, a very good article. I highly recommend to read it. It has like a few most important key parts. But there is a very good example to explain you. How many people here use Notion? It's pretty popular tool. The main problem is that they keep all your notes in the cloud, openly. They can read it, and they really read it to train artificial intelligence, for instance. There is another application called Obsidian. Instead of the Notion, Obsidian keep all your notes locally in markdown files, simple markdown files in the folder. And you can use cloud to synchronize it, any cloud. You can use Git, you can use, I don't know, Google Drive, or you can use their own solution for $5 per month. This is their monetization model. And this is a very good example of local first application. It's not only a way, like there is a multiple nodes application with local first. And also you don't need to be such local first, because local first is a spectrum. And depending on your business cases, it could be like more local first or less. Like, but I believe that even if you start to think about and start to save cash to the local machine, it will be even better. Okay, what you need to make your software local first? First, you need storage. You need storage on the client. As a backend developer, we have a very good databases on the servers. And we put a very small amount of data to the clouds, to the clients. But when we use local first, we will have about 20 megabytes for 500 megabytes data on the cloud. So we need database, normal database with rich query language with good performance. This is why we can right now run SQLite or Postgres in the browser. There is a very cool project called PGLite, which pack PostgreSQL into the WebAssembly module, and you can run it in the browser. By the way, I highly recommend PGLite not only for the local first, but also for the backend developers, because if you run Rails locally, Like you need to run Postgres to like work with it. With PGLite, you can put everything to the single Docker container because it will be a library, not a daemon. So very amazing project, highly recommend. Funny part, when you run PGLite or SQLite in the browser, it has used two different storage systems. First, it could store the data in the index database, or we can use original private file system API. This API creates a folder for your website, and your website could create any files inside this folder. But in Firefox, both index database and OPFS use SQLite. So if you put SQLite to the index database, you technically put SQLite inside the SQLite, and it's still much faster than just using index database directly. Index database is just shitty database, don't use it. If you want database, just run SQLite inside index database, it will be much faster. Okay, second thing. On the client, we have a reactive architecture right now, but for the local first, it's much better to add one more component. It's called action log. So when you're, like we have SQLite, we put all data in SQLite, but when user change something in the form, we don't go directly to the database to change the data. Instead, we create a small object which describes the changes, called action, for instance, and put it to the log. And then database is reading this log and applying changes from this log. It's very similar to oplog in databases. Databases, it's used the same principle inside, but not openly. And we need to put it like inside our JavaScript. Why? Because if you like making a reactive sync engine, it means that not only user can change the data could be changed by the cloud, by different user, or it could be changed by different browser tab. With this log, it will be not important who changed the data, because it will be the only way to database. So it will simplify your architecture. And then you need some solution to automatically resolve conflicts when two people change the same documents. There is a very simple solution called CRDT. There is a lot of libraries to do a CRDT. For instance, there is Aftermerge and YGS. Right now, there is even an extension for Postgres to do CRDT inside the Postgres. CRDT is not so complex. Just use library. And next step. You need two different passwords for user. One password will open cloud, and second password will encrypt all actions which you synchronize to the cloud. So as a result, you as a cloud will not be able to read client data. That's all. We created local first application. We created because of the principles, because we have a politics idea. But funny part, creating it opened a lot of business benefits for us. Let's describe. First, like without local first, we need like 2 backend developers and 2 front-end developers. But with local first, our server become very small, and as a result, we can make a business only with 2 front-end developers and 1 backend developers. Sorry, I know this backend conference, I should not say it like this, but this is how it does. Second, you can start prototyping without server at all. So you can find investments without server, because like it's local first, it's offline first by default. So like you need to write your software, which will works without server available right now. So anyway, your prototype could be started before you are writing server. It's better for business because you will get money much sooner. Second, you don't have scaling problem. With local first, clients use their own machines to access the data. So if you have more users, they will bring more hardware to you. And as a result, with local first, you don't need more and more money if you have more and more users, because you don't need more servers. It's also good for business. You don't have a private data on your servers anymore because it's encrypted. You're not worrying about leaking. But the amazing part that a lot of people told me that when they move to the sync engine or local first, they start to deliver feature faster. Because right now, when in your front end, you need to think about how you will work with database, with HTTP request. You need to run fetch. You need to implicitly describe network communications. But with local first, you will have a declarative way in your components, because everything will be done by the service in the background. But my favorite benefit of local first is that it's becoming very fast. It's a real local first application. Because you keep all data locally, you don't need to download it, and so you can work with it very fast. And fast interface, it's good for business, because it could be your benefit for clients. Like, there is a good example, Linear. How many people use Linear? It's like Jira, but hipster one. And task management is a market full of competitors. And how they compete with the competitors? They gave better user experience because of the local first. This is exactly quote from the Linear developers. They have benefits, business benefits, because they're local first. They could compete with much bigger clients. Also, there is a good example of Pitch. It's a slides apps. It has about 2 million users. Or like GoodNotes. They have about 25 monthly active users, and it means that local first is not, crazy new idea. It's already in production, in big production. And there is a lot of frameworks right now to do local first. This is mine framework, but like I recommend more to use Replicache or Electric SQL. They are better, but there is a huge number of the frameworks. They're all very nice. And there is a very good guide called localfirstweb.dev. You will find all frameworks on this website, so I highly recommend to start from this website. Let's wait until everyone can switch. Okay, and the last step which you can do. When we speak about privacy, we speak about privacy from perspective of the people of the United States. But privacy is more complex, especially in different countries. Like there is, of course, like to think about this type of questions, you should think about it only if you have a big project, but still, like, it's important to talk about it. We have a lot of risks, privacy risks. For instance, not only government secret service or like cloud provider, but also your family member or your local community. And in the United States, people are focusing only on these 3 topics and completely ignore others, but they are also a problem. For instance, but the main problem is that when we care about one risk, we could even make worse for another type of the risk. So it's like, it's very hard to find a balance, and sometimes it's better to have settings. For instance, like if I'm making an open source RSS reader, please ask me about it. It's a very interesting project. But if I'm making this RSS reader for American audience, they don't trust clouds. So they prefer for this application to be local first and go to the website for the news directly. So cloud will know nothing about it. But if a Russian user uses this application, they don't trust internet provider, and they prefer to use cloud. Because without a client, internet provider will know that they're going to Navalny.com and will put it to the jail, them to the jail. So different users have a different risk, and they need a different strategies. There is a very good example. There is a thing called random police check, like in Belarus or Russia or in many other countries. If you're going through the streets, it could be a local police, and they could ask you to open a phone and show them what's your what channels are you following. And of course you can say I have a rights, and they will just break your legs. Or you can enter a PIN, and they will see Navalny channel and we put you to the jail. So both options are very bad. And we asked Telegram to solve this problem, but Telegram refused because nobody cares about non-American privacy problems. So there is a very interesting project called Belarusian Cyber Partisans. They created fork of Telegram. In this fork, you can define 2 different PIN numbers. And if you're safe at house, you can enter your real PIN number and see your channels. But if it's a random police check, you can enter your second PIN number. And with this second PIN number, it will automatically destroy all dangerous channels and also send a message to your family that random police check, maybe I need help. If I will disappear at this police. So but the main problem is that why we don't have such features in the regular application? Because it's definitely a problem in many countries. And a lot of people, a lot of American companies, they're talking about privacy, but they don't care about these problems. And this is, hypocritical, not real diversity. Anyway, so summary. What you need to think next Monday. First, go and find your principles. It's much better to work with the principles rather than for just the money. Second, remove GDPR pop-up from your landings by going to cookie-less analytics. Third, try to reduce number of services which you use. 4, think about local first in your new project. And the last one, try to think about, or at least speak about, privacy problem which is not popular in the United States. And I want to remind you a very important quote from the creator of encryption. The decision we make about privacy in our application today will determine the kind of society we will live tomorrow. So it's a very important quote. That's all. This is my Mastodon, Blue Sky, and Twitter if you use it. This is Evil Martians channels, and this is a course with slides. Thank you.